Let's roll the next one, shall we? So what'll probably happen is I'll probably end up doing one more tonight. So it's going to be either Dreamworks versus Capcom or Sega versus Capcom. Let's up the suspense a bit with a 85-second spin. And yeah, I don't know I've like the last whatever one I don't do tonight, like I've already made the roster, right? Like I already have the roster prepared. I already have all the assets put into OBS. So it'd be cool to whichever one I don't do tonight, it'd be cool to still do it at some point. Like one thought is, um one thought is if I can make one more roster, then I can do that and Sega versus Capcom some point in the near future. Not next Saturday. Next Saturday I'm gonna be trying out Ed in Street Fighter 6. I'll be oh my god. Is this happening? I think this is happening. Okay. All right. Dreamworks versus Capcom, man. Dreamworks versus Capcom. Okay, so let's so this will be its own video when I upload it as a YouTube VOD. So going over the basics again real quick. Um Capcom made a poll. The poll said, "What franchises do you want to see come back?" Versus Capcom was an option on that poll. It got me very excited, and now here I am making a bunch of hypothetical versus Capcom rosters. Um, each roster uh, is a 30 character base roster, 15 characters on each side. I think that that's a reasonable amount of characters for the first game in a franchise to have. Um, and just kind of guessing what Capcom's budget and Capcom's scope on that would be. And then two 6 character seasons with three characters on each side per season. Uh, and so each game ends its lifespan with about 42 characters or 21 characters on each side. Uh, so each So in addition to that, each game has kind of its own rule set, right? Like for example, Netflix was a 2v2 game with kind of a mechanic that involved characters getting more powerful when their partners died. And Shonen Jump versus Capcom was a 3v3 with a mechanic that involved characters getting like transformation power-ups, like going Super Saiyan and stuff, right? And it focused on characters that could have transformations and that kind of thing. So let's pull up the DreamWorks guidelines. Oh yeah, and again I forgot to change the title here. So let's pull up the guidelines. All right, so DreamWorks versus Capcom will be a 2v2. Like DreamWorks versus Capcom is going to be kind of a more accessible, more family friendly game, right? So so yeah, 2v2 instead of 3v3 because that's less complicated. The key mechanic at DreamWorks vs. Capcom is wishes. Um, at character select, each character will be able to select a wish from like a list of 3, right? And this is basically like a selectable buff during combat, during the match, it'll activate like at a critical moment, right? Um, uh, and the way I kind of imagine wishes is like every character has access to two same wishes. One is a wish to be stronger, which will basically just give you an attack buff at a critical moment, and one is a wish to be healthier, which will give you kind of like a regen, like a regen buff will like proc like at that critical moment, right? But then every character will have a unique wish that's kind of specific to that character or specific to like a smaller subset of characters, right? Like like you know, like one character might wish that their friends are happy and so maybe like you the wish activates and if your ally character is still alive, they start like getting their lost health back, you know. Stuff like that, right? Like like character unique wishes that you can select. You can select that one or you can select a more basic one. And the character guidelines, characters with big personalities. This is important, right? Like DreamWorks movies all have characters that are big on like snarky banter and like cool one-liners and stuff, right? So like so the DreamWorks side of the roster is going to be filled with characters like that. So the Capcom side of the roster has to be filled with characters that can kind of crack wise along with the DreamWorks cast, right? Characters with like yeah, big like charismatic characters, but also characters that would also like have very funny reactions to these snarky, goofy characters, right? And of course, mostly family friendly. Um, you know, so there's not going to be big emphasis on like M-rated characters or like very like like sexualized or like violent characters. But DreamWorks can get dark sometimes, and DreamWorks is a little more adult in its dialogue and in its humor than stuff like Disney or certain eras of Pixar. So so like you know kind of raunchier um darker characters aren't off the table for the Capcom side or the DreamWorks side, but it's not going to be the focus. It's not going to be up front, right? It's not going to be the main focus. And this is all DreamWorks animation. Um there's no DreamWorks live action stuff in here. Does DreamWorks do live action stuff? Um but yeah, it's all oh, DreamWorks Pictures. Hold on. Let me let me look up if I've made a mistake by not including DreamWorks Pictures stuff. They did like What Lies Beneath and The Ring. Oh shit. Sadako, like long hair girl from The Ring would have been great. But yeah, I did kind of focus my mind was on kind of their animated slate. So that's what you'll see here. Real Steel was DreamWorks Pictures. I've You know what? This roster was hard enough to make without considering those things. So I think we'll be fine. Um but yeah, let's get started, man. Let's get started. So I feel like what I tend to do is get like the really obvious stuff out of the way. So let's get some really obvious stuff out of the way. Yeah, obvious, right? Yeah. So Shrek's obviously here. Um yeah, and I feel like he'll be kind of a brawler, like he'll be kind of crude also. Like he will have burps and farts as like special moves. Um he'll be kind of a grappler, I think, but he'll just like but not like in a proficient martial artist way, but more in like a like he will like pick you up and like Donkey Kong throw you, like yeah, like kind of just like a brute. Um there I don't even know how to move him. That's where he goes. Um and let's just keep this rolling, shall we? Um yeah, Princess Fiona, also obvious. Princess Fiona is obviously there, and I think she could actually have a pretty fun moveset because Princess Fiona is proficient in martial arts, right? Uh, so she could actually like do cool Rekka moves on you. I think she would have a super where she calls in the other princesses and they do that thing where they sing heavy metal and like a bunch of animals stampede you, right? Like, yeah, Princess Fiona would be a great fighting game character, and she's absolutely in. And let's get one more Shrek rep on the board. Puss. Yeah, this God, this is so easy to imagine as a fighting game character. Um, I think I think his hat will have a hitbox, so he's not like just the short annoying character that you won't be able to hit with like punches. Um, but yeah, he'll be super fast. He'll be excellent rush down. He will have maneuvers and be able to just like bounce around the field like really annoyingly. He'll be really slippery, really hard for you to like move in on. Um now now we'll put some obvious ones on the board. We'll put the obvious Capcom ones on the board as we kind of tend to do here, right? Ryu. Chun-Li. And, we'll just put Ryu and Chun-Li on there for now. Um, Now you'll notice that I didn't put Ryu and Chun-Li across from Shrek and the Shrek characters because I think that Shrek and the Shrek characters and the Street Fighter characters wouldn't really be rivals this time, right? The Street Fighter characters have some very clear rivals. So why don't I put them on the board? So yeah, we've got Poe from Kung Fu Panda, and he's gonna be like Ryu's rival in this game, right? They're gonna be like Poe's gonna be the one that like clashes with the Ryu. Like they'll be friends by the end. They'll have a great respect for each other by the end of everything. But they will initially like kind of fight each other to kind of determine each other's strength, right? Um, and yeah, Poe will basically be like a Street Fighter character. He'll have cool martial arts moves. One of his supers will be like that pinky thing, right? Like yeah, no, he'll be a great and fun fighting game character for sure. And Chun Li's kind of rival slash counterpart will be, of course, Master Tigress. Now, post second fighting game after the Kung Fu Panda Smash clone. Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. I saw that game being played at Mystery, and it's great. That game's actually fucking awesome. Um, but yeah, in this they'll have kind of traditional fighting game moves instead. They'll actually be in kind of like a traditional non-Smash fighting game this time. But yeah, Master Tigress and Chun Li, they will both think the other is awesome, right? They like they will both kind of respect both of like the grace with which they both fight and how powerful they both are. Like these two will be besties in the story mode for sure. um and I've got one more Kung Fu Panda rep for you. Tai Lung, who's kind of, I guess, the Akuma of Kung Fu Panda, right? Like he's been trained by the same master as Poe, but he is more ruthless. Uh he is more violent. He is more intimidating and dangerous than Poe. Uh who also fights for his own ends and for selfish reasons as opposed to, Poe just being kind of a warrior of good, right? Um so I think he'd be a very cool fighting game character. Um and yeah, he's basically he gives off a lot of Akuma vibes, right? So he's here as kind of the Akuma of the Dreamworks side of the game. Um so is his rival Akuma? No, it's not. So I mentioned earlier that you know, that I need the DreamWorks versus Capcom rival to have I need the DreamWorks versus Capcom roster to have a lot of big personalities, right? A lot of just like a lot of like snark, but also a lot of energy and like uh a lot of charisma, a lot of spunk and what have you, right? Kimberly is absolutely a DreamWorks character, right? She's so upbeat and like optimistic and like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and fun. And I think she would be Tai Lung's rival not because she's as serious as Tai Lung, but because she's so unserious and Tai Lung would find her really annoying. Like I think that Kimberly would remind Tai Lung of his rivalry with Poe because Poe takes things so unserious and and Kimberly is just having fun fighting. And for Tai Lung, fighting is not about fun; it's about power. Um, so yeah, this it was really fun to kind of realize this could be like a cool rivalry between the two characters. But also yeah, Kimberly just really fits to me in a roster with DreamWorks characters in it. Plus, like she's just one of the best new Street Fighter characters, right? Like in Street Fighter 6, she is one of the best new additions. So I feel like if they start pulling Street Fighter 6 reps into a versus Capcom game, Kimberly's got to be at the top of the list. Uh, a because she's so great, but B because her moveset also would translate really well to versus Capcom. I feel like they could really kind of crank her moveset up to 11 and make her fit really well in a game like this. So yeah, Kimberly. I got to get some more Capcom characters on the board. Why not Rufus for a Street Fighter character with energy? Rufus would be a great pick. That's a great pick. I didn't actually even think of Rufus, I'll be honest. Um, and not only is he a great pick, but I feel like there's potential for him to show up in a game like this because we haven't seen him in a while, and they like to kind of like bring back characters that have not been around for a bit. That's great. I wish I'd thought of that. I probably would have tried to make him DLC and then not really had room. Um, okay. All right. The order that I go about this might be a little funky, but uh there's an obvious character I haven't put here yet. So let's get that out of the way real quick. Yeah, there's Morgan. So I will say that I think Morgan in DreamWorks versus Capcom we get a slight redesign, right? I thought about making an entirely new graphic for this that just said Morgan with a shirt on, but this putting together these graphics has actually taken a surprising amount of time. Maybe not surprising, but it has taken an amount of time for sure. Um, so just imagine like just imagine Morgan getting kind of like the Smash Bros treatment where like her costume is pretty similar to the way it usually is, but there's just parts of the costume that cover parts that weren't covered before now. Uh that's how Morgan would look in DreamWorks versus Capcom. But she would be in the game. I decided ultimately that she would be there. Just with a bit of a redesign. And probably a temporary redesign, knowing Capcom. Um, so before I show the next Capcom character, I do want to show a DreamWorks character first because the DreamWorks character is the reason that I put this Capcom character in, like this specific DreamWorks character, and it's Poppy from Trolls. So I haven't watched Trolls. I have gotten the vibe that it's better than it looks, you know. Um, but there's no denying that Trolls is a huge fucking franchise, and like there would be Trolls representation in this game. So Poppy, the main character of Trolls, is here. Um, and yeah, I think the trolls all kind of like play music in magical ways, so she will play her music in magical ways, and Poppy is one of the characters on the Dreamworks side of the roster that I have a very specific rival in mind for. Oh, not sure what happened there. That's what I wanted to do. It's weird how big Trolls got him when you think about it. Feels like some we're in the weird universe stuff. It does, you're right. It absolutely does feel that way. But it certainly has gotten big. There's no denying that it's gotten big. So a very specific rival in mind for Poppy, and that is another Darkstalkers character. And it's Lord Raptor, the guitar playing zombie from England, I guess. Lord Raptor is like he is such a fun, goofy guy in the Darkstalkers universe. He is so like he's so carpe diem. Uh he's so like rocker that loves life, even though he is technically undead. And I just imagine him and Poppy bonding over their mutual love of music. You know, like I imagine people being freaked out by Lord Raptor over on the DreamWorks side, and then like he busts out a tune and Poppy just thinks he's great immediately. Poppy doesn't judge a book by its cover. Poppy's like, if you love music, then I think you're cool. And Lord Raptor really appreciates that. Um so yeah, they'll just those two will just bond. And Lord Raptor's in the game. Lord Raptor is an elusive one of the elusive Darkstalker reps in this exercise. Um Gotta put more Capcom reps on the board. I think I already said that, but I still do. Oh, not as many though. Okay, yeah, because I'll even it out. No, I still gotta add at least two more characters to even it out. Well, here's one thing. Here's one thing I'll do. So you're probably wondering, okay, so like Kung Fu Panda and Street Fighter, those are each other's rivals. Does Shrek have a rival? And yeah, I do have a rival in mind for Shrek. It's Arthur. It's Arthur on the Capcom side. So the way I imagine it is that like, Arthur will be on some chivalrous knight shit, and he'll bump into Shrek thinking that he's like, it's like, oh, vast an ogre, I must slay thee. Get away from the princess, who is another ogre. Like he will, he will use his fantasy knight prejudices to kind of, uh, try to fuck up Shrek. And Shrek has been through this before. He will not be about this. You'll find Arthur very annoying, but eventually they will kind of gain a mutual respect for each other. And they'll be friends by the end of the story. There's going to be a lot of opposites attract, a lot of these guys feud initially, but then they end up being friends because that's how DreamWorks works, guys. That's DreamWorks for you. So we got Arthur over on the Capcom side, and he'll actually be kind of a major presence in the story because he'll be butting heads with Shrek so much. Um, and yeah, why don't we you were thinking his rival would be a wrestler from Saturday Night Slam Masters, as Shrek would be a grappler, but my idea makes more sense. I think your idea makes sense in a different way, you know? Okay, let's if we're doing Capcom, let's get some Mega Man reps on the board, huh? So here's Mega Man X, and I think it's the first. Is this the first time in this exercise I've done Mega Man X? Um, I'm not sure actually. I don't remember, but either way, uh, Mega Man X is here. I feel like he'd just be more open to witty banter than a lot of other Mega Man protagonists. I think Zero obviously also would kind of be there for the witty banter, but X, X is the Mega Man protagonist that would be most bewildered by these DreamWorks characters. So I think he'd be the most fun Mega Man to be present. But we've got another Mega Man character on the roster with a big personality. X was in one of them before. Okay, cool, good. Oh yeah, he was in Shonen Jump versus Capcom because he was in Shonen Jump versus Capcom because he has transformations, and that was important for that game. Um, our other rep is Dr. Wily, and he will be in like some sort of machine. Um, yeah, I mean, this is a big personality. This guy, this guy steals attention in a room. And I think it'd be cool as kind of, villainous, like antagonistic character, right? Um, he's not the boss. He's not the boss of the Capcom side, but he would be a villain, a an opposing force in the Capcom side in the story mode. And yeah, he's never been in a versus Capcom game before, and I think that's a shame. So he would definitely be there doing cool robot shit. Um okay. All right, let's get another DreamWorks like franchise out here. It's surprising they haven't done Wily yet, considering they did Tron Bonne in a mech suit, right? They keep bringing out Tron Bonne and they haven't done Dr. Wily once. It's crazy to me. They've done Sigma and they haven't done Wily. Hiccup and Toothless. So, you know what? And I'll put X and Wily up here. Actually, they might move another time, but just realize I tend to put the weirdos in the bottom corners. Um, yeah, Hiccup and Toothless. That one seems like kind of a no brainer, right? I think they'll basically fight in tandem. I think Toothless will kind of be a puppet character in a way, right? Like Toothless will be in the background, but Hiccup will be able to like call out to Toothless to do like big sweeping attacks, right? Like Toothless will have like a full screen low attack that's just like a sweeping tail move. But Hiccup has to like call for Toothless to do it, which will give the opponent like time to block low, right? And that'll be kind of the idea. Like Hiccup will have big dangerous attacks through Toothless. Um but with some wind up. So if the character's playing smart enough, they can make Toothless less of a threat. But I think Hiccup will also be a mode. Will also have a mode where he can climb up onto Toothless, and and they will attack together with him riding Toothless. Um, uh, and yeah, maybe that's a stance, or maybe that's just like he does that for his supers. But yeah, they've done zero in like every game, even in they've even done the Game Boy Advance Zero games designed twice and no Wily. Yeah, what's with the Wily hate? What's with the Wily hate? But yeah, Hiccup and Toothless. But however, they're not the only How to Train Your Dragon character. Astrid is here too. Uh, Yeah, unlike Hiccup and Toothless, who will basically fight like as a unit together. Astrid will mostly fight on her own with her axe, but she will be able to kind of call in her dragon like for special moves and stuff, right? Like her attacks are more of the summon variety than the puppet variety. Um, but she is much more like she's much more self-sufficient. She fights on her own a lot more. She has a big old axe that she'll primarily fight with. And like an axe fighter is pretty cool for a fighting game, I think. So she's definitely in. And I feel like they'll both have costumes. Like their default designs will probably be like their kind of teenage slash young adult designs, but they'll have costumes uh that will be them in their 30s, right? They'll have an alt costume for that. Um, Now, do these characters have rivals? Do the How to Train Your Dragon characters have rivals? And yes, they do. I'll show Hiccup's rival right now. It's Ratha and Ryder from Monster Hunter Stories. Um, yeah. In Monster Hunter Stories, instead of like killing the Monster Hunter monsters, you actually like hatch their eggs and ride them. And Ratha is the name of the baby Rathalos that you hatch. And and yeah, so basically like while Hiccup will be off of Toothless sometimes and like use like call Toothless in for attacks, Ratha and Ryder are like a single unit. The Rider will always be on Ratha, and it will basically just be the baby Rathalos doing the attacks while the Rider rides them. Um, and I've kind of sliced it off here, but there's also like a little feline riding on the rider's back. You'll be able to like the feline will be able to like run forward and like fall into the opponent and that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, basically I had an issue in when I was talking about Netflix versus Capcom. I'm like, I have an issue with Rathalos as a playable character because it's too big. Uh, it's not an issue in DreamWorks versus Capcom. Baby Rathalos, the baby Rathalos isn't too big. So yeah, so yeah, Rathan Rider and Hiccup and Toothless will be like facing off at some point in the story, and their dragons will kind of have a dragon off, right? Let's see, we got 9 DreamWorks characters on the board, and we have 9 Capcom characters on the board. So I guess I can show whoever I want next. How about these guys? Um, So yeah, the Penguins of Madagascar, the way I envision them is that Rico, right, like the captain of the Penguins of Madagascar, will be the guy that you control, right? Um, but the other three are all of his moves, right? Like his normals, his specials. It's all of his moves are him calling out one of the other three to do things for him. Uh, and he like what I'm imagining now is each penguin like is kind of assigned to a different button, so he can kind of like have all three of them out at the same time, each doing a different action. Really like filling the screen chaotically with penguins, just overwhelming the opponent with them. um, and maybe the opponent can like disable one of your penguins by like hitting them as they come out, like, and then they can't come out again for a short period of time. I don't know if that would make Penguins of Madagascar too weak, so that's just a thought. Uh, but yeah, they're a character that I would love to try to play properly, but maybe they'd be too complicated for me. And the Penguins of Madagascar actually do have a rival. This is kind of a weirdo character, but not really that weird actually, because we've seen him before. Not in this exercise, but he's been in Capcom games before, versus Capcom games even. As Captain Commando. So Captain Commando also has moves where he calls out his friends, and the way I imagine things is that in the story, um, Captain Commando and his crew meet the Penguins of Madagascar, and uh all of Rico's subordinates, right? Like the other three penguins that Rico's in command of, think that Captain Commando is a really cool captain, and Rico starts getting kind of an inferiority complex about it, right? He sees how efficiently Captain Commando commands his team, and feels inferior because he can't command his penguins that efficiently, right? Because his penguin subordinates are kind of they're idiots, right? So he feels like a lesser captain of his own team uh before he discovers that Captain Commando actually really respects him, right? Like they actually have kind of a heart to heart, and Captain Commando thinks that his team is great. Um but also that even though his three subordinates think that Captain Commando is really cool, they still think that Rico is the coolest. That'll be kind of the little heartwarming conclusion to that whole thing. Okay. Captain Commando has been gone for too long, and that's a great idea for a rivalry that you literally have never thought about before. Well, thank you. I sometimes these interactions when I was doing all this, these interactions would just fly into my head, and I would not be able to let them go. And yeah, the Penguins Captain Commando connection was one of those things. Hmm. Might have spent that too soon. That might have Penguins of Madagascar might have been one of the weirder picks actually. I might have played that card too soon, but here we are. Let's pull out another DreamWorks one. Jack Frost. Jack Frost from Guard the Guard not the Guardians of Gahul. Um Rise of the Guardians. Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Rise of the Guardians. Yes. Yeah, he'd just be pretty cool, no pun intended. He'd have, his ice powers. He has his stick, you know, he's got that Chris Pine swagger, although obviously Chris Pine would not reprise his role for this. Um, and he's also Elsa from Frozen's boyfriend. Great point, Vinny. Thanks. Uh, yeah, so he's got all these things going for him. I thought I'd put him in the fighting game. Nero, he does, you know, Jack Frost actually predates Nero. So if anyone is a ripoff of the other, Nero is a ripoff of Jack Frost. Nero's not in the roster, by the way. I thought about including him, but it didn't happen. Um, Sorry, just seeing who I should pop out next. So actually, I think I'll put these characters up here, actually. Um, let's see. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Dreamworks characters and 10. Yeah, I know what I'm doing next. I know what I'm doing next. All right. So on the DreamWorks side, Megamind, like he's got to be here, right? Like he has a great moveset potential. Fan like big one of the biggest personalities in the whole bunch. Um, yeah. Yeah, he's great. He's funny. He really stands out amongst the rest of the DreamWorks cast. So yeah, he's a shoe in. He's easily here. So his Capcom counterpart, his rival character, is Beautiful Joe. So I think you kind of see where that's going, right? Beautiful Joe is a hero and Megamind is a villain. So Beautiful Joe initially thinks that Megamind is like, a bad guy and tries to take him down. And obviously Megamind sees Beautiful Joe as this pest who not only is like really overdoing the whole heroics thing, but also is like 3 feet tall. He's like half as tall as Megamind is. So he's really just like this little twerp who like won't stop bugging him, right? Um, Eventually, Beautiful Joe realizes that as villains go, Megamind is not that bad of a person, and they team up to fight like the actual villains of the piece, right? Um, but yeah, I think they'd have very funny interactions, so they're both in the game so that they can interact with each other. Um, let's see, got to do some more Capcom characters here. Not a lot more, obviously. Honestly. So over on the Capcom side, it's funny. I just had her in the last roster for completely different reasons, but she's in this roster too. Amada Ross, because do you think do you think a game with all these family friendly like cartoon characters, all these cute like, all these mascot characters, do you think they would resist having the puppy, Do you think they would exist having the cute, awesome, badass puppy character? I think not. I think Amada Ross is absolutely in. Beautiful Joe's arrival to Megamind is actually genius. Thank you. Thank you. I That's another one I was proud of. There's so many like I'm sad this probably will never happen, right? I'm sad this roster will probably never happen. These two companies might not ever meet or collaborate. Because the interactions that their characters would have for each other, the scope, the breadth of that is actually like incredible. I want these characters to meet each other so bad. I've done myself. I've played myself by putting this roster together. Um Sorry. One sec. Okay, sorry about that. Uh, um, where was I? Right. Gotta add another Capcom character to the mix. And thinking about big personalities, right? Thinking about characters that would have kind of bewildered and exasperated interactions with the Dreamworks cast and also other members of the Capcom cast. It's got to be this guy. You got to have this guy there. Um, he he doesn't really have any specific rivals, although I do imagine that he'd like have some kind of altercation with Megamind, right? Maybe also just kind of experiencing the prejudice towards him that Beautiful Joe exhibits. Um, but he does need to be in this game for one reason, and that's his arcade ending. Because Phoenix Wright's arcade ending would be Phoenix representing Barry B from a B movie in court. Like that's you know yeah he's gotta be in the game so you can put that in. Also, what are you doing in my client's swamp is also very good. That's also pretty good. I feel like Fiona would like use her connections to get Shrek a lawyer, and then the lawyer would be Phoenix Wright. That's pretty good. It's not bad. So Phoenix goes there, and now we're down to um. So yeah, like I know. I guess I've already kind of shown the characters that would kind of qualify as weirdos on the DreamWorks side, right? Like yeah, the Penguins of Madagascar, they're pretty weird in left field. You got Poppy, you got Megamind. Megamind's not that weird in the grand scheme of things. Um, but I guess I do have kind of a couple of kind of like deeper cut picks for DreamWorks. Um, and that's that I didn't just want to grab from their movies, right? So so on the DreamWorks side, we got She-Ra from from She-Ra from the She-Ra reboot that aired in the 2010s. Um, yeah, she's an awesome like sword fighter with like, magical strength and the She-Ra cartoon was developed by DreamWorks Animation, right? So she counts as a DreamWorks property, at least this version of her does, and it'd be really cool to see her in a fighting game. So we've got her, and then also on the DreamWorks animation side of things, we've got Kipo from Kipo and the Legends of the Dream Beast or something. Um, this is a series I haven't seen myself, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. Um, yeah, this character's got a great character design, and she's got like jaguar powers. Like she's morphing her arm into a big jaguar arm there. So I think she'd be pretty cool in a fighting game, and I think she's cool as kind of like an unexpected like left field pick. So so we've got Kipo in there. Um, but that brings us to I guess actually I've put myself in a hole where I'm showing the weirdo characters before the bosses again. So we'll just crawl into that hole, shall we? Um the last weirdo character. So I mentioned that both How to Train Your Dragon characters have rivals. We haven't Ratha and Ryder is Hiccup and Toothless's rival. We haven't seen Astrid's rival yet, which is another character riding an animal. Or rather, in this case, the character itself is the animal. The rider is secondary, and that is Pink Ostrich from Battle Circuit. Uh, Battle Circuit is an arcade game that Capcom put out in like the late 90s, I think. It got re-released in the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, and Pink Ostrich is just an incredible character. It's a fucking pink ostrich with an eye patch, and a little girl's riding her. The little girl's name, by the way, is Paula Abdul. The Paula is spelled different. It's Pola. It's like Pola Abdul, and she is deliberately named after Paula Abdul. Um, so yeah, this character is incredible. It needs to be in a versus Capcom game, and the reason Pink Ostrich is here is that um like a like I think it's my idea is that at some point Pola Abdul uh gets like kidnapped or gets incapacitated and like isn't riding Pink Ostrich anymore, right? So to rescue Pola Abdul, um Boss Baby starts riding Pink Ostrich instead. And there's just a climactic scene in the story mode where Boss Baby's on Pink Ostrich. Ratha and Ryder is on the Ryder's on the Rathalos. Uh, like Astrid and Hiccup are both on their dragons, and they're all just kind of like riding together in this straight line, about to like storm the headquarters of like the main bosses, right? Uh, so for that like climactic scene, Pink Ostrich and these others have to be in the base roster. I'm really pulling the obscure characters, and you're here for it. I Capcom will always pull like a few obscures, right? They got to do that. So like I'm trying to be as true to them as possible. Boss Baby starts writing Pink Ostrich is one of those sentences that has never been said in all of history prior to now. I'm here to serve. You're away from the Kipo reveal, but great pick. And you think I'd really like Kipo in the Age of Wonder Beast. Cool. Yeah, I think I'd like it too. Um, so we're down to our boss character reveals. Um, we're down to our boss character reveals. So on the Dreamworks side, we have Wolf from Puss in Boots. Um, so I haven't watched the new Puss in Boots movie yet. I haven't watched either Puss in Boots movie yet, but I really want to watch the second one. Um, I I don't know a lot about the second Puss in Boots movie, but um I do know some of Wolf's deal, and and I think he'd make a great like main antagonist for for this game on the Capcom side. Um uh you knew he had to be in or this roster would be a sham. I agree. He did have to be in. Puppy versus Mr. Puppy. If Wolf wasn't the boss, Amaterasu would be a perfect rival for him. I didn't even consider that. Um, but yeah, Wolf is the boss on the DreamWorks side, and then on the Capcom side, this might be the first Capcom roster I've made so far, and maybe period, with three Darkstalkers characters in the roster. Because I think that Jeddah from Darkstalkers uh would be a great pick for this game. So even though um like I mentioned at the beginning, like this game will be largely family friendly, but it will still kind of involve some darker themes, and Wolf and Jeddah both kind of like Jeddah is the Grim Reaper in his game, right? Jeddah is the Grim Reaper in Darkstalkers, basically. So Jeddah and Wolf both kind of, not to kind of keep it vague, to not get into too many Puss in Boots spoilers. Um but both characters kind of have a relationship with death. And I think it'd be really cool for them to kind of team up and maybe even like create like some sort of final boss thing together, whether they fuse, whether they uh, whether it's manufactured by the two of them teaming up. Like I said, I don't really know Wolf's power set, so I'm not quite sure how that would work, but it should happen somehow, based even on what little I know about that movie. Um, Jedha, the coolest Darkstalkers character. I mean, I already put Lord Raptor on the roster, so I don't know what you're talking about. And yeah, that's the base roster for Dreamworks versus Capcom. We got his inclusion. Jedha's inclusion was a W for Marvel Infinite, and there's not many of those. LOL. Yeah, that's fair. Jedha was a cool. It was cool that Jedha was in, and it's kind of a shame that Jedha's introduction to Marvel vs. Capcom uh had to be Infinite. That's kind of a bummer. But okay, DreamWorks vs. Capcom. We've got Shrek, Princess Fiona, Puss in Boots, Wolf, the Penguins of Madagascar. We got Arthur, Morrigan, Lord Raptor, Jeddah. Those three being from Darkstalkers. We Phoenix Wright. We got Poe, Master Tigress, Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda. We got Jack Frost from Rise of Guardians. We got Megamind from Megamind. And then we got Ryu, Chun-Li, and Kimberly from Street Fighter. We got Mega Man X and Dr. Wily from the Mega Man franchise. We got Hiccup and Toothless and Asteroid from How to Train Your Dragon. We got Poppy from Trolls. We got She-Ra from She-Ra. And we got Kipo from Kipo and The Age of Wonder Beasts. And finally, we got Beautiful Joe, Amaterasu, the baby Rathalos and its rider from Monster Hunter Stories, Captain Commando, and Pink Ostrich from Battle Circuit. And that is our base roster. And I'm not done yet. There's DLC. And if you thought this was a funky little roster, I'm also excited to show you the DLC. So let's get that started. On the DreamWorks side, we got Donkey and his wife from Shrek. Uh, so the way this would work is that Donkey would be the main playable character. He'd be the character you control. He'd trot across the screen. He'd do little donkey kicks. But most of his moveset would be him going like help and hit the dragon coming onto screen and like coming to his rescue. Like, yeah, he'd be able to call his wife out to like, to like scorch you with flames or to like, to like do a bite attack. He could also probably summon his children, like little baby dronkies, uh, to like they'd each be like a little like obnoxious projectile, right? Um and and yeah, like basically Donkey just like summons his family to fight you in his stead. um yeah, I didn't want to oversaturate the base roster with Shrek characters. Puss in Boots is kind of a spin-off character at this point. But yeah, I did think that Donkey had to be there somehow at some point. So yeah, Donkey. The other thought was like, how would Donkey even have a move set? And it's you get his wife in there. That's how. The Dronkies would be fun. I would love to see the Dronkies there. You're picturing a sort of Shadow Labyrinth situation where Dragon is always looming in the background. I like to picture her like flying onto the screen and then like leaving until Donkey asks for more help. Um, but her just sort of like sitting in the background and like glaring at the opponent also is funny. The D and DLC stands for Donkey, donkey loadable content. But that's the first. That's the first piece of DLC. There's 11 more. All right, this might be self-indulgent, but I feel like this is actually a justified pick, given the vibe of DreamWorks. I think this is actually a justified pick. And I was already very selfless when I put together the Square Enix roster. There's not a single Final Fantasy IX character in the Square Enix roster. So I deserve this. I deserve this. I deserve this. I get to make a pick for me tonight. And it's Dan Hibiki from Street Fighter. Now, yeah, like this this is the only time I've put Dan Hibiki on a versus Capcom roster for this whole exercise, by the way. But I think he really fits for DreamWorks. Like I said, right? Like the focus on the character guidelines for this roster was characters with big personalities, characters with great one-liners, characters with fun snark, characters that, you know, that other characters can be exasperated or bewildered by. And Dan Hibiki is 100% the latter, right? He's 100% like just just this obnoxious comic relief character that I think would be the setup for a billion different zingers from various DreamWorks characters. I think he works perfectly for this specific setting. So he is in his DLC. You wish Dan could have been in the main roster so that he could get tricked by Farquaad into proving his mettle by defeating the terrifying ogre in the swamp. Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I wish I thought of that. That's fantastic. All I thought of was Phoenix Wright defending Barry B in court. Um, Up next is DLC Katra, also from She-Ra. Yeah, she's just she's a great character, right? Like she's just really well written and really compelling and awesome. But also she'd be a great fighting game character. Uh, she could basically just have Wolverine's moveset if you wanted her to. Uh, since Wolverine's not in this game. And yeah, she'd be just great rush down, just really high pressure and just a really fun, like aggressive moveset. You'd pay so much money for Katra. Yeah, that's also the idea. I feel like she would be like easy DLC, you know? The She-Ra girls deserve their own fighting game, honestly. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's why, like, even though like maybe their status as DreamWorks characters is a bit iffy, I had to include a couple of them. I wish I had room for more, honestly. I wish I could put Scorpina in this game. And 90 like half of the reason for that would be so that Lauren Ash could reprise her role. I bet she'd have a blast. Bet she'd have a blast voicing Scorpina for like a fighting game. You sort of feel like Katra has a better place on the base roster than Megamind does. Nah, 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 nah. Like Katra's amazing. But Megamind is so much more of like a DreamWorks focal character to the point that they just put out a Megamind movie and a TV show, right? Like, or they're right about to. They look like they're gonna suck. The sequel, the movie and the TV show look like they're gonna suck. But the fact is that DreamWorks is really putting a focus, like a marketing focus on that character right now. Like I think he does have to be present. Really only know of the one movie and the countless memes. Yeah, the sequel is kind of a direct to video thing and it looks really low budget and kind of bad. And Will Ferrell's not reprising his role and it doesn't look good. But the fact is that DreamWorks is still actively using the property, you know? Okay. The next DLC character on the Capcom side is Devilot. Devilot from Cyberbots Full Metal Madness. Um she keeps cameoing in other Capcom projects, but she hasn't been fully playable in any Capcom things since, or rather, she hasn't been fully playable in any Capcom fighting game since Cyberbots. Like she has shown up in like Puzzle Fighters, and I think she's in Gem Fighters maybe. Um, but yeah, you love her design. Yes, she is like she's basically like a stuck-up little brat of a princess that like has her bumbling servants do everything for her, and I really wanted her to be in the base roster as uh kind of a foil for Princess Fiona. I wanted I wanted Fiona to have to deal with Devilot as like this very spoiled uh stuck up princess when Fiona is such a laid back princess, right? I really wanted them to interact, but I didn't have room. I had to put Devilot in the DLC. Um, but she's definitely got that big personality, you know? You like her evil BB Hood energy? I thought about putting BB Hood in several other rosters, actually. But yeah, Devilot is such a great design. uh I don't know if I mentioned that you said you love her design, Dev, but yes, her design's great. Her design's fantastic. Um and and she hasn't gotten the spotlight for a really long time, so I think she should get the spotlight as like DLC. And if you just learned that her full name is Princess Devilot the Death Satan 9. Yup. Yes, it is. She's great. She really needs to yeah, she needs to be playable in a fighting game. So she would be DLC in this one. Um okay, so last for DLC season 1, our last Dreamworks character our last Dreamworks character for season 1 is King Julian, well, with Mort from Madagascar. So this would mostly just be King Julian as a playable character, right? Like he's the main one on the field, doing his dance moves and and throwing stuff at you and generally being, just a silly little guy. Um but Mort will be used in some of his moves as both like kind of a toad style shield, um and also as like a projectile. Uh and Mort will probably also be in his supers. Uh so like it's not quite like them fighting in tandem or anything. Um but yeah, it's mostly King Julian with Mort as like a key part of like certain elements of his move set. Um Also, Devin like walked by when I was putting this character into OBS, and it was his idea that Mort should be like a toad style shield. So that that is a great idea. Yeah, he has to be, right? And the last for season 1, the last Capcom side character is Tron Bonne from Mega Man Legends. Like, yeah, this is another big personality from the Mega Man franchise. She would be a great fit for the Dreamworks cast and roster, right? Just like just her being like I just imagine her just being frustrated with so many different Dreamworks characters. Um that it'd be really fun to see her interact with this cast. And I love Tron Bond. She's a great character. Really, really fun, really funny, really great vibes. So yeah. So she would finish out the first season of DLC. And now the last season, the last season, season 2, on the DreamWorks side, Goldilocks from the Puss in Boots movie. Again, I don't know too much about the Puss in Boots movie, but I know that I need to watch it, and I know that this character design fucking rules, and I'm sure she does some cool shit. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff she does that will combine into a fighting game moveset of some sort. So yeah, she would uh so while Donkey is a DLC Shrek rep, Goldilocks is a DLC Puss in Boots rep. And yeah, God, I need to watch that fucking movie, man. But yeah, even though I haven't seen that movie, her inclusion, all the Puss in Boots character inclusions feel justified. Um, on the Capcom side, Rashid. Now, yeah, we're talking about charismatic, big personality characters. Uh, yeah, Rashid is absolutely one. Not only would he be a great like versus Capcom character, not only would like making his moveset more ridiculous be really easy and making it fit in a versus Capcom setting, but he would also just really fit with the rest of the DreamWorks cast. He'd get along great with them, have a great time. Like he just have all these win quotes where he like he wants to feature fucking Poppy as a musical guest on his FooTube channel, right? It's perfect. You're holding out hope for Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. That's a fun idea. It didn't occur to me, and I think the reason it didn't occur to me is because I assumed that DreamWorks does not own the rights to Wallace or Gromit. I think that was kind of a licensed movie. If I'm wrong about that, then I've made a mistake. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that Wallace and Gromit aren't actually DreamWorks characters. DreamWorks just licensed Wallace and Gromit to make a movie one time. If I'm wrong about that though, fuck. I'm probably right. Probably. All right. DreamWorks rep. The next to last DreamWorks rep. This is an important one. Miguel and Tulio from The Road to El Dorado. Uh, yeah, like DreamWorks is mostly known for their CG output, but they did make a few, like a small handful of very high quality 2D animated films before they, especially animation wise, high quality, before they moved on to, make the big bucks in their CG movies. Uh, and I think Road to El Dorado is both like one of the highlights of that 2D roster and uh and would be a cool fighting game move set. Uh to me they would fight in tandem, right? Like they would kind of run alongside each other. Um and you could kind of they would like, they would tag each other in and out, right? You could control either one of them and each of them could like command their partner to do different things, right? So you could be you could be Miguel and have Tulio like kind of lie down behind the opponent so that Tulio can like so that Miguel can like push the opponent and they trip over Tulio, right? Like that kind of thing. They're both just kind of like tricksters uh that kind of like confound and confuse the opponent together with their little tricksy tricks. I think it'd make for a very very fun, very obnoxious move set, and yeah, it felt like they had to be in some form or another. I looked at the other 2D stuff, right? Like Joseph, Joseph is a great movie, but I think there was less fighting game move set potential there. Besides, I guess getting help from God, which felt weird in a fighting game, and you know what? That scene I mentioned where where like were like Hiccup and Toothless and Pink Ostrich with Boss Baby riding it and Astrid and her dragon and the baby Rathlos and its rider all teaming up, um like running down like a street or something together. During that scene, uh Phoenix Wright is riding the horse from Spirit for some reason. Spirit doesn't end up being playable, but Phoenix Wright does ride him in the story mode. Joseph summons the wrath of God, instantly killing his opponent if they're a firstborn. Okay, I do not have the time to figure out which of the characters in this roster are firstborns. I would spend the time to do this. I don't have the time and I should not spend that time doing that. Oh my god. Spirit can simply sense Phoenix's good vibes and allows Phoenix to ride him. Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah, Spirit would instantly trust him. Fight of Gods exists, so God showing up has a precedent. It also has Santa. I do know about Fight of Gods. I think it'd be weird in DreamWorks versus Capcom. Beautiful Joe has only child energy. He's toast. um Okay. Um, the next the next Capcom character is Dante. He really should be in the base roster, right? He can crack wise with the best of them. Yeah, I think he does some fun interactions with various characters. Uh, but yeah, yeah, he was in the base roster. I swapped him out for Captain Commando at pretty much the last minute. Once I realized the dynamic that Captain Commando could have with the Penguins of Madagascar. But he's still here. He's still DLC, you know, he still made it into the roster. He can still have fun win quotes and it's it's too bad that Paranorman isn't Dreamworks because I just imagine like an arcade ending for Dante where he teams up with Paranorman to do paranormal shit. But Paranorman isn't Dreamworks. All right. Two DLC characters remaining. The last DLC character on the DreamWorks side, and I don't know if this would be cool to other people or just to me, but Pitch Black from Rise of the Guardians. Uh like basically Pitch Black just like controls the night, he controls shadows and darkness, and he can use like darkness uh to create those spectral horses and shit. Him is kind of like a JP style character that just like zones you out with like his dark powers. Just seems like a really cool, really obnoxious fighting game character. And I also think that Rise of the Guardians is just kind of an underrated like hidden gem of a DreamWorks movie. Um this might not be like the crowd pleaser pick, but this would be like a cool like, oh, look at this shit. Look at what this character can do, like just surprise the fighting game audience with what a cool move set he has. I think would be the route to him being kind of the closer on the DreamWorks side. And and the last DLC character, the closer for the whole game is Franziska von Karma from Ace Attorney. Yeah, I think she kind of works as a fighting game character. She's got her whip, um, and she can use that in various creative ways. But also just to see her like tear into every other character in this game through her win quotes, just to see her roast every DreamWorks character, I think makes her like the perfect final character for this game. You get all the best dialogue in the game if you buy this last character, Franziska von Karma. You would like to see her decimate the troll? be, be nice to Poppy. What the hell? Okay. All right. And that closes out the DLC. Donkey and his wife, Dan Hibiki, Katra, Devilot, King Julian and Mort, and Tron Bon in season one, and then Goldilocks, Rashid, Miguel Antulio, Dante, Pitch Black, and Francisca von Karma in season two. And there you have it. There is DreamWorks versus Capcom. That is that is the roster that I came up with. I hope you enjoyed. Ugh. Are Ryu, Chun-Li, and Dante the only ones to show up on every roster? Ryu, Chun-Li, Dante, and Morgan. Morgan shows up on every roster. And I don't think it's. I'm not. Yeah, I think maybe Dante does show up on every roster. Now that I think of it, there's, yeah, Dante just does feel like a staple. Just it does feel like starting with three, he's going to be in every versus Capcom game from this point on. Great job. Personally, you don't think there'd be a chance for two Rise of the Guardians characters, let alone even one, but this was great. That my yeah, I try not to let my bias get in the way for these. Um, but adding a second Rise of the Guardians character may have been my bias getting in the way. Um, Also have some. Rise of the Guardians was a cool movie though. I agree. I agree. Um, Also have some cut content. Roll was initially going to be DLC for this game, but I ended up swapping her out. I think for Francisca. I think once I realized that Francisca von Karma just fit the DreamWorks vibe really well, I removed Roll even though I'd already made a graphic for her. Hmm. Hmm. Do I have time to do the Sega roster? Like obviously like it's almost 11, like I'd be going over, but I wonder if I could do the whole Sega roster by and be done by like midnight. Like I have it ready, I have it prepared. And there's reasons that I think I could get through it kind of quickly actually. Plus it'd be kind of sad if Sega got left out. Like but I guess really there's really a couple paths here, right? Like either like I crank out Sega tonight or if someone suggests like one last roster for me to put together, I could do that and Sega. Not next week. I'm playing Ed in Street Fighter 6 next week, but maybe some point in March I can I can put those last I could put those last two versus Capcom rosters together. I think this is the only one you're interested in, but Criterion versus Capcom, Cartoon Network versus Capcom. I so you guys suggested CW versus Capcom last week, and I did look into it, but ultimately, like I didn't know. Like I saw all these properties, and so many of them. Uh, so many of them, of these franchises like Vampire Diaries, Veronica Mars, Riverdale, uh fucking um I'm already forgetting, like Kung Fu and shit. Like so many of these things besides the DC stuff, like I'm vaguely familiar with the Arrowverse and like Smallville and stuff, but so many of these other franchises were shit I did not know shit about, that I realized I could not do a CW versus Capcom myself, you know? Like I wasn't equipped to do it and make that interesting or worth listening to. I know just enough about Netflix stuff to squeeze by for that one, but CW I'm just not knowledgeable enough. Same problem with the Criterion collection. Uh just my gut tells me that the Criterion collection I'd have trouble with. I did think about Cartoon Network versus Capcom. Um but I just don't really think um I don't think it would exist just because WB Discovery fucking blows, and like we don't like they're making their own crossover game right now, and we don't even know if that's going to continue to exist yet, you know? They've been silent about that for like a troubling amount of time. Like we don't know what's happened with multiverses, right? Similar I'm of a similar mind with Nickelodeon versus Capcom, where like like Nickelodeon is barely handling their own crossover game, you know? Like I don't think they'd play ball with Capcom. I could just do Sega in March but still spin the wheel as though there were more. Yeah, I just wouldn't, like, like that feels like that'd be a short stream, you know? I'm knocking these out in an hour and a half to 2 hours, so Riverdale has so much roster potential. There's a demon from an alternate universe Riverdale, and he could be a rival to Archie. I did like I did do some research into Riverdale, and I did notice that character. I also noticed that Veronica has poison skin and is a witch. Like, yes, Riverdale does have fighting game potential. I just am not equipped to find all of it. Um okay, I guess 11 is when I would stop streaming, and I know that if I started Sega, some of you guys would probably have to go to bed before I was done. So, I'll I have Sega ready, but I'll save it for another time. And if anyone suggests a good versus Capcom roster to me within the next week or two, I might make it. Dr. Seuss versus Capcom. There's I wonder if you could do an Illumination versus Capcom, right? That would give you several Dr. Seuss properties to work with, but also like Servbots versus Minions. Um is No, fuck. I was like, is Robots Illumination? No, that's Blue Sky, and they've been shut down. Um, is No, Hotel Transylvania is not Illumination. That's Sony. Yeah, see, that's the problem. There'd be a bunch of shit I'd think was Illumination, but I'd be wrong. Um, Dr. Seuss versus Capcom is kind of funny. That's not a, I don't I'm not saying I'll do that. I feel I'm leaning towards not doing that, but there's something funny there. But all right, guys. Everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching the stream. Yeah, so Monday I start a new full playthrough Monday game. I start playing Portal. People are telling me I might be able to beat it in one sitting, but it might take me two sittings. So I will at least start Portal on Monday, and next Friday, I will potentially be playing this game called Balatro, um, which is like a poker roguelite um, where sometimes instead of drawing like regular poker cards, you will draw like tarot cards or uh, you know, or just other random shit. Um, that all have different powers that affect the poker game. So it seems to be really good. People seem to be really into it. And I haven't gotten addicted to a new roguelite in 2024 yet. So yeah, I'll try that out. I guess two card game Fridays in a row after Pocket Card Jockey, but that's the plan. And then Saturday will be me playing Ed's arcade mode and getting trained by Ed in World Tour in Street Fighter 6. And maybe if I have time left after I do those things, maybe I'll do a first attempt with Sean or something if he's still awake and down. Um yep, that's the plan for the next week. Thanks for watching. If you're new, I'd love a follow. I'm trying to get 100 follows by the end of March. That's my goal to continue streaming through the rest of 2024. Um, and uh, and yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you on Monday.